Welcome to South Asia Review Globo-Fest. South Asia includes lands and nations that make up South Central Asia, as well as the subcontinent of India. There are a number of valuable rivers there, upon which early civilizations emerged over time, and upon which life is still dependent even today. The largest of these rivers include the Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra. Wind patterns called monsoons create a rainy season and a dry season on the subcontinent and continue to have a major impact on climate. Agriculture is dependent on these wind patterns. The Indian subcontinent is divided by mountain ranges and the Deccan Plateau, creating a barrier effect for cultural diffusion. Subsequently, northern India has a very different culture than southern India. The southern portion of South Asia is bordered by the Indian Ocean. Over time, the people of South Asia used the Indian Ocean to establish maritime trade with other parts of the world, including Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Africa, and the Middle East. The central portion of South Asia was part of the Asian land route, or the overland route, called the Silk Road. The earliest civilizations to emerge in South Asia include the Indus River Civilization, which is believed to have developed around 2600 BCE. The Indus River flows through what is now modern-day Pakistan. This early civilization boasted a number of large cities, including Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. These cities had well-planned grid patterns. They had a surplus of agriculture, or steady food supply, due to the frequent flooding of the Indus, allowing for regular irrigation of crops. The Indus civilizations traded cotton and jade, possibly with China, but most definitely with the Mesopotamians, as part of the Mesopotamian-Indus trade route, which was part of the eventual broader Silk Road trading route. Most of the Indus people are believed to have migrated to the area as part of the Indo-European migrations from Central Asia. The Indo-European nomads in India were the Aryans, who helped establish the mother culture for a good part of the subcontinent region, and who are thought to have conquered a larger or a group of darker-skinned people called the Dravidians. The origins for Hinduism, the dominant religion of India today, from the Aryans, who helped establish a precursor to the caste system with their Vedic beliefs, is sometimes referred to as Vedism. Vedism emerged from a group of teachings called the Vedas around 1500 BCE. From Vedic beliefs came Hinduism, based on a series of writings called the Upanishads, which personalized Vedic beliefs around 500 BCE. Hindus believe in reincarnation, karma, and dharma. Early Hinduism recognized thousands of gods and goddesses, which means it's a polytheistic faith. However, around 200 BCE, most Hindus recognize Brahma as the supreme force or personification of God, with many Hindus believing that Hinduism is monotheistic. Other prominent deities in Hinduism, though, include Vishnu the Preserver and Shiva the Destroyer. Acceptance of Hindu beliefs will lead to cultural practices for a long time, including the caste system, as well as the practice of sati. Belief systems in India will soon include Buddhism, which emerged around 500 BCE from Hinduism, based on the ideas and teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, a Hindu prince. Gautama gave up his life of privilege in order to find answers about why there was suffering in the world. This search will lead to intense meditation and reflection, and it is said Gautama became enlightened or at one with the universe. Gautama became known as Buddha, or the Enlightened One, from that point forward. Buddhists share many beliefs with Hindus but reject the caste system. They also believe in reincarnation. However, Buddhism will spread around the globe and will be practiced in a variety of ways. Older Buddhism is often called Theravada Buddhism, which places an emphasis on meditation and Buddha's original teachings. A newer form of Buddhism, called Mahayana Buddhism, will spread to places like China, Korea, and Japan. Mahayana Buddhists place more emphasis on ritual and symbolism, and often blend with local cultures and traditions. There is no specific holy book for Buddhists, but many teachings were written in the Tripitaka, or the Three Baskets of Wisdom. Buddhists believe that in order to end the cycle of human suffering, one must follow a series of steps, often called the Eightfold Path. The Indus civilizations gave rise to the eventual emergence of powerful empires in India, including the Mauryan and Gupta, who will adopt these new religions. The Mauryan Empire was perhaps the first empire of the Indian subcontinent, emerging in northern India around 324 BCE and ruling until around 184 BCE. It was established by Chandragupta Maurya with a lavish capital at Pataliputra. The Mauryans traded with other empires, including the Greeks and early Romans and Middle Eastern peoples, including Alexander the Great, who never conquered India, but rather blended much of its culture with Greek culture. One of the most famous of the Mauryan emperors was Ashoka, who became disillusioned with warfare and adopted a more peaceful worldview, leading him to adopt Buddhism across his empire. His teachings and Buddhist-based laws were carved into large stone pillars called the Pillars of Ashoka. He encouraged trade with China, even sending out Buddhist missionaries to China, and helped to spread Buddhism to the Eastern world. Ashoka is often credited with the formalized establishment of Buddhism as a religion. The Mauryan Empire collapsed around 184 BCE, leading to a period of almost 500 years of political and social instability throughout the subcontinent. Eventually, a new empire rose to stabilize the subcontinent and effected long-term change. The Gupta Empire was established around 320 CE, adopting much from Middle Eastern cultures, especially from the field of mathematics. The Gupta used what they had borrowed to create the decimal system, established the concept of zero and pi, and actually are thought to have created the wrongly named Arabic numerals. The Gupta Empire reverted back to Hinduism and eventually fell around the mid-500s CE. The Guptas experienced a veritable golden age of Indian culture, art, literature, and stability while in power. After the fall of the Gupta Empire by 550 CE, much of South Asia north of the Deccan Plateau fell into political disarray, with attacks by the Asiatic Huns as well as eventual attacks by Mongols later on. Parts of modern-day Pakistan were also invaded by Muslims from the Umayyad Empire. Many smaller kingdoms heavily involved with trade existed during this period of time. One of the largest of these kingdoms was the powerful Delhi Sultanate, which emerged around 1206 Common Era and lasted for 5 dynasties or ruling families until around 1526 Common Era. The Delhi Sultanate, an Islamic kingdom, successfully repelled attacks by the Mongols from Central Asia. The Delhi Sultanate was followed by the Mughal Empire, also an Islamic culture, with descendants from Central Asian Mongols, including Timur, and ruled over much of the subcontinent between 1525 and 1540. The Mughal Empire was briefly overrun by rebels and then reinstated control between 1555 and 1857 Common Era, after which the British imperialized the continent, or subcontinent, creating its jewel-in-the-crown colony. The Mughal Empire is sometimes referred to as one of the 3 gunpowder Islamic empires. The other 2 empires with this title included the Ottoman Empire as well as the Safavid Empire in Persia. These empires used modern technology to defend their territories and controlled much of the trade in the Eastern world. The Mughals reached their peak under Akbar the Great, who ruled between 1556 and 1605. Akbar is credited with controlling the successful cotton trade of India, developing a fully modernized army to complete their conquest of the subcontinent, and showed tolerance to other religious groups throughout his reign, including to Hindus, Buddhists, and Sikhs. Sikhism is a religion that combines some Hindu beliefs with many Islamic beliefs. It's a monotheistic faith established by Guru Nanak during the 15th century, and it's currently the 4th largest faith in India today. Akbar the Great was also progressive in terms of women's rights and attempted to outlaw the Hindu custom of widow suicides called sati. Akbar's grandson, Shah Jahan, was another famous Mughal ruler. He is credited with the building of the Taj Mahal Palace in 1643, built in honor of his wife, Mumtaz Mahal, who died during childbirth. The Mughal Empire fell into decline during the 1700s, a situation the British East India Trading Company took advantage of as they attempted to control trade in India. By the 1740s, the British had already established influence there following the 7 Years' War, fought largely throughout the world in European colonies. Following this war, the British controlled many of the Mughal leaders as their puppets. Although Britain didn't control India until the mid-1800s, the British influence and control over India technically began with the influence of a British company called the British East India Company, who had a near monopoly on the cotton trade in that part of the world. The British East India Company controlled Mughal leaders and kept these leaders pitted against one another in conflict. Additionally, the British East India Company acted as administrators over the Indians by collecting British taxes from landowners called zamindars. To enforce their influence and control, the British East India Company hired native Indians called sepoys to serve as police officers and soldiers. As British influence and control increased in India, they justified said control using typical justification of new imperialism, social Darwinism, and the white man's burden. Between 1857 and 1858, the Indians revolted against the increasing influence of the British, including sepoy soldiers during the Sepoy Mutiny. In order to put down the uprising, the British sent in troops, relieving the British East India Company of its control and colonized India, adding to its growing empire. British control of the subcontinent will continue until its independence in 1947 with the help of Gandhi as well as other activists. Thanks for listening. Bye.